What's up, witches? Welcome back to another episode of the BetterWitch podcast, where we have candid conversations with real life practitioners and professionals because when we know better, we witch better. We're broadcasting live from Witchwork, New York City's only co working space for witches. I'm your host, Ali Kravitz, aka Bronx Witch. I'm the founder of Witchwork and the CEO of BetterWitch Coaching. And you can tune into live tapings of the show from my YouTube channel, BetterWitch Coaching and Podcast. Today's guest co host is Dionna Chambers. Dionna is an intuitive business coach, strategist, speaker, and visionary leader. She empowers purpose driven leaders to awaken their magnetic essence and build transformative businesses through her signature blend of strategy and soul. Leveraging NLP, Akashic insights, and deep operational expertise, Dionna helps clients achieve extraordinary growth by bridging intuition with actionable frameworks. Her offerings include the Embodied Wealth Accelerator, one-to-one coaching, transformational retreats, and the upcoming Embodied Wealth podcast. With a client portfolio spanning globally recognized brands like Sony Electronics and innovative startups, Dionna's approach combines wealth energetics, quantum healing, and practical strategy. As a single mom to a neurodivergent child, she embodies resilience and authenticity, inspiring leaders to harness their intuition and create systems that amplify their impact. Dionna's vision is to empower creative entrepreneurs, beauty founders, and venture capital leaders to unlock their potential and achieve lasting success with integrity and purpose. You can learn more about Dionna on IG and Threads at Dionna Chambers. Welcome, Dionna. It is great to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely. It looks like that medium Lauren is in the audience and she's excited for this one as well. I know that you and I are friends, and I've been making a really big deal about Threads lately. Everyone I talk to literally like, Threads, you need to put me on the bonus because I am telling everyone. But it really, truly, I feel like is the platform to be on for those of us that are serious about connecting with folks. I feel like it's the space where people are really active. They're not just there to watch, maybe the way Instagram or other platforms encourage you. There's really a lot of networking and genuine connection happening, whether it's folks finding clients or folks collaborating. And I had seen a post of yours on, I think you posted on Instagram and also Threads, but you basically said that you can't expect your business to pay you always if you're only willing to work on it sometimes. And when I read that, I was like, oh, we have something in common, girl. Because I say that all the time. That's the kind of like tough love that I think folks really need to hear, particularly when it comes to our spiritual and wellness practitioners. That I do think have maybe a misconception about the amount of work that goes into entrepreneurship. And so there's a really deep desire to heal, to lead, to divine, to work magic, to help serve communities in some way. But then what is often missing is that work ethic that, perhaps if you're in corporate or you've built a business before, you understand, but maybe as a spiritual healer is new to you. And so I love that you just came right out and said that. Like at the end of the day, you have to take responsibility for how much work you're actually putting into your business, right? And I feel like in a lot of ways, that's great practical advice. But I also think that that's like genuinely what magic is. When you focus and harness energy in a particular direction, you are able to impact an outcome and change a reality. And so if you're trying to change your life and the life of others through your spiritual practice, then a concentrated amount of energy needs to be put into that. It can't be something that you sort of take really casually. Um, and I'm really curious because you work so deeply with spiritual healers, leaders, etc. How are you like having that conversation with your clients, your audience? How are you helping people to understand that there is a dedication and a work component, even though the work that they're doing is spiritual or wellness based?
That's a great question. For me with my clients, I am just honestly very candid. So we do a lot of energetic work. We do a lot of clearing work. I would say that's a lot of the work we do in the beginning of my one-to-ones and coaching groups. But at the end of the day, every week, my clients are responsible for getting certain things done. So that's very much where like the business coaching aspect is embedded in what I do. Is we have deliverables that you told me you're committed to accomplishing. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how woo-woo and witchy we are. It's like, are you getting this done? Did it get done by end of day Friday? If not, why not? Let's figure out what's going on. Then what's the new dedicated date to finish what you need to finish? At the end of the day, I think the community, our community is so great about like, I need to sit with this. I need some more time. And I hear that all the time. And it drives me crazy because I'm like, what do you need to sit with? Your shadows aren't going anywhere.
Right.
You're never going to stop. You're always going to be working on yourself. But your business, if it's not worked on, isn't going to grow. It will not scale and it won't expand. So at some point, yes, I totally believe we need a reset. We need our monk moments. We need our hermit mode. I get that, but that doesn't need to go on for months and months and months. Like you can say, hey, you know what, for the next 72, I'm shutting off. Great, cool. When you get back online, what are we getting done? Right. So I'm very much about how do we bridge the two? And then how do you stay accountable to the word that you've given yourself? It's not about me. I'm just holding the mirror. Are you going to do what you said you're going to do?
Yeah. 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 And I feel like there's a bit of like a disconnect there sometimes where there's a misconception that there's something not spiritual about holding yourself accountable, about working hard, about putting in extra effort. There seems to be this sort of like, it's not weird because I understand where it comes from, but there's this sort of, I remember I was like working with someone or attempting to work with someone and we're like, I'm sending emails, we're doing things, I'm getting no response. And the response is like, oh, in divine timing, like I'll get back to you, like, when the time is right kind of thing. And I'm like, let me sit with that because what that makes me feel like is I don't want to work with you because I don't think that you take this seriously. And I think that there is a habit of using like spirituality kind of as like an excuse for just not having your shit together and not taking yourself seriously. And like, I feel like it has to be called out. And the reason why I feel like it has to be called out is not because of a desire to make spiritual practitioners more corporate or more bro or more capitalist, but because I genuinely feel like we are in what some people would call, and it might seem kind of dramatic, but what some would call a spiritual war. Like we have healers, we have leaders who are on one side, and we have people that don't want to see good things from humanity on the other. And for every healer that doesn't take themselves seriously, that slacks off, that procrastinates, and doesn't put themselves out there so they're available to the people, the more the bad side wins. So there's a real need for spiritual and wellness practitioners to take themselves seriously. It's not just like to be like others, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I restarted my business because I've stopped and started. I'm the stereotype for 5 years. And how I got here was because I was dating wealthy men in the 3D matrix. And I'm not ashamed of that at all. But what I learned was work ethic. What I got to see was men who were very dedicated to the vision that they were building. And you don't have to agree with corporate structure, or you don't have to agree with politics or the way things are, but you chose the human incarnation, which means that on some level you chose to play this game. And per your point, if any change is going to be made, we have to be able to work hard, just like our counterparts are working. I'm not saying work yourself into the ground. I'm not promoting burnout, by the way. I'm still promoting the dance of masculine and feminine because I absolutely believe that that is a thing. I coach on this, like resting during luteal, all of that. But when you are in your peak energy, there's no reason why you can't put in the hours to invest in your business. There's not, right? Like that's just an excuse. It's spiritual bypassing yourself. So I got here because I watched other masculines that were flawed. Obviously, I'm not with those men anymore, but there were things I learned that I now apply to my business that supports my clients. And it really was work ethic. It was persistence. It was discipline and commitment.
Yeah. Yeah.
How is that bad?
Right, right. I was just going to say those characteristics are honorable characteristics, regardless. Like whether you're looking at religious texts, whether you're looking at spiritual teachings, there has always been an understanding that like putting your best foot forward and putting effort into the things that you care about and you want to create is not only the best approach from a practical standpoint, right? Like you will get farther if you put more effort than the next person, all things considered, but it's also a reflection of your own healthy state of being. And I think it's important that you mention that this is not about promoting burnout. It's not about saying that you have to work yourself into the ground. I always say witches do it better. And when people ask me what the it is, I just say everything, because we tend to be more spirit led when we make decisions. We tend to understand balance in terms of self-care and working hard, because we have spiritual practices that really edify us and take care of us. We have something built into our lifestyle that automatically provides us a safe space for rest, a safe space for recalibration. So when we reach those moments where we've really exerted ourselves and we need to come back to self, we need to take a moment of breath. We know how to do that. We also know how to recognize when that's happening, and we know the signs of what to look for. So the two can really go together well. Being a genuinely spiritually deep person and someone who cares about what they're actually building in this world and wants to make it sustainable so that they can do it and not have to choose between, working 40 hours at wherever, and healing their communities. And what I have found with my own clients is that oftentimes there is some type of wound healing that needs to be worked on. That oftentimes it's not just, oh, I'm tired, or I'm a lazy person, or I don't want to work hard. Usually that's the consequence. The cause is a fear of being honest about wanting to make money, self-consciousness about wanting to be wealthy, unhealthy relationships with money, with work, avoidance for whatever reason, maybe a fear of being seen, maybe a fear of being the face of your practice and of your business. Maybe there are some witch wounds, like there's a fear of being persecuted for the things that you practice. Maybe what you practice is a bit alternative or a bit misunderstood. And so because of that, I was really excited that we're talking today, because today is the new moon in Gemini. I feel like this is a really great time, new moons in general, to start over, to plant a new seed. But in particular, I feel like this new moon is really activating for starting over on your healing journey. You have the twins who are able to look at each other. And I think there's so much shadow work that can be done when we really look at ourselves, when we look at all aspects of ourselves. You mentioned the masculine and the feminine, when we try to balance both sides of ourselves and see why one might be dominating the other. There's so much healing available. So I'm really praying that folks watching this episode take Dionna's words as an encouragement to start today on this new moon with that healing journey and taking yourself seriously in a way that is healthy. And one of the things that you work with is quantum healing. And I was like, oh, wow, I feel like that is a technique that could be really helpful for folks trying to start over, maybe with their money relationships or their work relationships. Can you tell us a little bit more about quantum healing? Because I hear about like quantum time jumping quite a bit from the astrologers, not necessarily so much quantum healing. Like, what is that? And is it perhaps possible to use that to help with some of those blockages?
Absolutely. So I primarily access the quantum through the Akashic. The Akashic is part of the quantum, and the quantum field, just for a refresher, it's sort of the epicenter where time and space meet and collapse all at the same time. It's where everything and nothing exists. It's where we access information on our soul across all our incarnations and how that's connected to everything. And most importantly, source creation. So I use the Akashic specifically in this way. So once the Akashic is open, it is a healing container and it is consent based. And things that we are unable to heal through or clear on our own automatically are done in this realm, in the quantum. And there are different modalities in the quantum. There's also quantum hypnosis. I'm not a practitioner in that, but I have had that work done as a client, and it is life-changing. So I fully believe that this is a space, which space/no space, where anything is possible. Resets are actually tangible, and I've seen them in my own life. So I embed that Akashic knowledge in just my work. I don't necessarily have to open your records to be working with the Akashic. So I'm very honored and do not take it lightly that I'm someone that can access them. And I also feel like there's a duty to embed it in what I do. So I do. And it's kind of it's sort of like the quantum field is sort of quantum physics. So if you're at all into that, just kind of think of those things as being like going hand in hand. So I feel like to kind of demystify it, it's just a space where we get to reset. We get to go back to 0 point base. That's what the quantum's for. So if you're interested in just being done with your own shit, like I like to say, that's where you want to go.
Yeah. So this really is a great time to do that. Could like a really, really deep restart. And what would that look like? Let's say I am trying to build my spiritual business. I'm a tarot reader, I'm a Reiki healer, and I'm afraid to, let's say, charge appropriately. I'm afraid to charge my worth. I'm afraid to charge more than, a few dollars or donation-based readings. And I know that I can't sustain that. I know that I can't build a business around that approach. But at the same time, I have some type of fear around just making it plain that I need money in order to be able to continue to do this work. And I need to make it, and therefore I need to charge this amount. If that was something that I was dealing with, could quantum healing help me with that? And what might a reset with that type of issue look like?
Well, that's a great question. The first thing that comes to mind as you're talking is, what is it costing this healer to remain broke? Are you serving humanity by being the martyr? And it's not about quantum healing. It's just, these are just questions I would start to ask, because I think we have to start there before we do anything on that level of depth. And you have to be ready to receive the healing. And if you're not willing to let go of the poison, then I can't use the quantum to support you in healing. And then lastly, what comes to mind is just, am I ready to be done with this archetype? We are alchemists of energy. We don't need the quantum. We don't really need anything. Everything we have inside of us that we possess, we can use to reset ourselves and others. But it comes down to courage. Do I have the courage to finally not only face myself, but decide I'm going to do something different in a different way?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like going and doing ayahuasca. Like, not everyone's ready to go to sit with their grandmother. And you may not be ready to actually do quantum healing because your nervous system isn't going to be able to hold it. So we're not even going there yet. I don't even have my Akashic readings on my Stan store because everyone's not ready. So they get invited in.
Wow.
All referral based.
Wow.
Right?
So there's a journey. There's like a process, really.
Be ready. I genuinely feel like if you're a true Akashic reader, you understand, or a quantum healer. Like, I have a friend again who does quantum hypnosis. It's life-changing work. But if you're not ready to let go of your shit, I don't recommend it. Like, you're not ready.
Facts.
So the qualifying question before we even get to that work is, or before you even go to ceremony, is, am I willing, before I even touch that, to commit to something for 7 days, 30 days, which means commit to posting on social media every day, commit to starting your newsletter, commit to increasing your pricing and reaching out to 100 people and seeing if they're down to work with you, because that's where it starts. If you're not willing to do those things, then you're not really ready to do this deeper work, are you?
Right. And I feel like I'm glad that you mentioned the nervous system regulation component, because I think that's something that even I really wasn't fully understanding how that was impacting my ability to make decisions from a really healthy place. That so many of us are making decisions because of panic, because of past trauma, because of unchecked anxiety that's just running rampant in our bodies. And so oftentimes those decisions that we are making that are ultimately detrimental to our practices, to our profitability, to our abundance, come from a nervous system that is truly out of whack. And it's been really amazing for me how many decisions I have made just in the last like 6 months or so, since I've really been making an effort to work with my nervous system and to eliminate things that were, only furthering the shock, whether it was caffeine or not getting enough sleep, etc., and really taking the time to incorporate practices, herbs, etc., that could help with that. Because I think that oftentimes it's all connected, right? Like it's often coming from a place of trauma. It's often coming from a place of survival and a place of fear that we were put into probably far too young, that now as adults it's like we're fighting a battle against an opponent that is no longer there, but we're still fighting. And so we're making decisions from this, fight or flight space instead of from like a truly embodied, clear-headed and relaxed type of a state. You mentioned being ready for the healing, the ready for going on these types of journeys. And I feel like not necessarily the other group of people, because sometimes it's an overlap, but when it comes to my clients, aside from like trauma, blockages, etc., sort of the other component to not moving the needle in your business, having hesitation, running around in circles, can sometimes come from neurodivergency. And so I thought it was really beautiful that you include in your bio that you are a neurodivergent mom, or you're a mom of a neurodivergent child. And so that gives you obviously a firsthand experience, an up close experience of what it is like to be neurospicy, as I like to call it, to maybe process things a little bit differently. And I run into that as well, where folks either are diagnosed neurodivergent, or perhaps they haven't formally been diagnosed, but they have some suspicions or particular challenges, perhaps with staying focused on a task, or organizing themselves in a way where they don't forget what they're working on next, or they don't become overwhelmed by too much stimuli or too many instructions or steps that they have to take. What has it been like for you to take, if you do this, to take the knowledge that you've gained working with the neurodivergent child into, let's say, client sessions with neurodivergent adults who want to, have all the intentions of growing their businesses, but maybe have some limitations that maybe others don't have in terms of just like the technical aspect of organization, developing routines, etc.?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to disclaim, I'm definitely not a professional when it comes to specifically, like I'm not like trained specifically to work with neurodivergent coaches or people, because I just want to make sure that I'm not giving like the wrong advice.
Yeah.
But what supported me being a mother raising a neurodivergent child is just simplifying everything. So, right, it's like, what are the 3 goals that you're accomplishing by Friday? I just simplify language. I cut down how many words I use when I'm speaking to my clients in general. I typically attract a lot of neurodivergent people because I'm in the healing and the arts. I have a lot of entertainment creatives as well as spiritual creatives, and a lot of us are on some level neurospicy. So I just simplify everything. I don't give a ton of words. I'm just like, Monday in my group chats, it's like, what's getting done by Friday? It's very simple. And then it's just also, it's systems, right? It's okay. Does Notion work for you? Great. Does Trello work for you? Great. I'm going to build the system for you. All I need you to do is go on there and check off if you did it. It's basic accountability with systems and structures that I create, simplifying language, clear goals. What's getting done by Friday? That helps so much. It honestly alleviates a lot of anxiety that I see come with this profile. And it supports people in being very honest as to what's coming up if they're not getting it done. Because I'm not contributing to making it more complicated, right? I'm contributing to making it simple. So if there is still a blockage, well, then let's look at that, right?
Yeah.
So I would say the answer to that is like, I simplify everything.
I love that. That's so simple, but also like so profound at the same time. Medium Lauren says, I need to make a t-shirt that says witches do it better. And I support that idea. And I feel like that's a really great time for us to take a quick break, because when we come back with you, Dionna, I'd love to start getting into wealth energetics and normalizing wealth. This is something that you work with a lot, the idea of the sacred side of being wealthy, the sacred side of scaling your business. And I really want to dive into that with you. So if you'll stick around for a second, we're going to take a quick break. What's up, witches? While you're refilling your teas, I want to talk to my witchpreneurs, my boss witches out there. If you have a witchy business, product, or service that you want to get in front of the thousands of witches that are tuning into this show, then an ad spot is the best way to do that. Ad spots for season 4 are now open for just a short period of time. So you're definitely going to want to reach out. The Better Witch podcast has been downloaded over 16,000 times, and we only have something like 25 or 30 episodes. So that's really huge. And I want to thank you guys for all of the love. And for my boss witches, I want you to ask yourself, what would you do with 16,000 new followers, customers, or clients? What difference would that make in your spiritual business? How would that make it possible for you to continue to serve your communities? I want you to have that type of exposure, and you can do that with an ad spot in an episode or in an entire season run of this show. And you're going to want to get in now before the season 4 window closes. You can find the details on how to get an ad spot in this show in the description of this video. All right. Welcome back, everyone. We are here again with Dionna Chambers, and we are talking about the sacred side of scaling your spiritual business, the sacred side of wealth and abundance, and what that is all about. And for me, I think one of the most profound lessons I ever learned was that wealth and money are not the same things. And I think when we talk about wealth, the first thing that people think of is money. And then right after that, they think about all of the misconceptions and negative, impressions that they have been given about money. Things like money is the root of all evil, and money corrupts, and it makes you a bad person, and there's no way to be rich and be ethical. And I have found that these statements are simply not true, but they are very widely held. So I was hoping you could talk to us a little bit about wealth energetics and why wealth and abundance is stigmatized and how we can start unraveling that in our own lives.
Well, I thought it'd be interesting to give a proper definition.
Yeah,
So
very
wealth
helpful.
this is according to Oxford Languages,
Hmm.
an abundance of valuable possessions or money. So I love to start with that because possessions can also be what? Time,
Hmm.
connection. It can be health,
Hmm.
right? It can be trade. I think that's also a great when people forget when they just think about money. But what about like if someone bought you a free coffee or
Hmm.
you won something? These are all
Right.
possessions
Hmm.
that aren't necessarily directly money, but they can also be money. How we begin to unravel what wealth and money means is also definitely tied to childhood, but how we continue to relate to both our wealth identity and money as kind of an expression of wealth comes down to us taking radical responsibility, right? So I'm taking radical responsibility over the fact that I've looked at money very scarcely. I'm taking radical
Hmm.
responsibility over it. Sometimes even now, even me, I'll be like, I don't have enough time, or I've been really struggling with money. And one of the biggest things I work on in any of my work as a coach is I am the word police. So
Hmm.
times we're on calls with me, I'm even like, let's change out hard to challenge. Let's change out challenge to transition. Let's change this out to I'm working on.
Hmm.
So, because I find that the biggest block with my clients, and listen, I'm not a nervous system expert. I use nervous system work because you have to, or like there is no healing. But what I'm really an expert at is language and communication. And I'm a sociologist per formal study, but I've also been a public speaker since my early 20s. So over 15 years exactly, I've been speaking in front of hundreds of people. I've traveled the world for it. So I'm really big on what language can do. It is a spell, as you know. So I like to work a lot with language paired with identity work, which is nervous system work. And so it's first like, how am I speaking about money? Let's just start there. We don't need to go in down a lot of trauma. My dad said this, and we live paycheck to paycheck. That's part of it. But honestly, you can just start to change your reality today if you start to look at what you're saying and how you're saying it. And it's not just about money. It's about how you're talking about your entire life.
Yeah.
Talk about wealth energetics. How are you speaking about it?
Yeah. Simple statements like, I'm broke, I'm so broke, or like, oh, I don't have anything, I can't afford this. Like little things like that. There, may she rest in peace. Was a witch named Nicole Benzo who created an oil line called the Rich Witch. And it was very successful. And I had the honor of having her on the show in our first season. And one thing that she encouraged me to do was from now on, always say, I can afford everything and anything I want. So even if you're explaining to someone that at the moment you're not ready to make that purchase, you're never saying, I can't afford it. You're always saying, I can afford anything and everything I want. And right now is not the right time for me to make that purchase. And that is such a small shift in the way that you would phrase something, but it was hugely impactful for me. And I think that, especially as witches, we work so much with the spoken word. And like you said, it is a spell. And the first person that hears every word that you say is you. You hear it first. You hear it in your mind first. And so you're really programming and conditioning yourself to believe something and then operate accordingly based on the words that you tell yourself. And another one that I hear, other than like just the general attacks on money or I don't have it, I'm broke, is this idea that spiritual work isn't supposed to be paid. That there's somehow, I know, right? Like eye roll moment, that there's somehow something inappropriate about charging someone for the work that you do if the work is spiritual. And I have a really hard time understanding that. I understand where people get that from. I understand the certain individuals and forces in our world want us to feel that way. Um, in large part the church, but like how do we unravel that? Like, how do we help people to understand that you're not violating some type of cosmic law by having an even exchange for the work that you're putting out into the world? Like, why is it different to people when it's spiritual work?
Let's just break down some basics here. Like as a spiritual practitioner, if you're going to offer a cacao ceremony, you would never question that you would need to pay for that with money.
Mm-hmm.
If you're someone who really values the gym or going to yoga, you wouldn't question that you would need to keep your membership active in order to go and perform those physical tasks for your whatever reason, like for your mental health, for your summer body ready, right? You would never question those things, right? You don't question why you go to the grocery store and have to pay for groceries in order to feed your family.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this for anyone questioning. If someone has identified that this is what I'm good at, these are my assets, which is my spiritual work, and this is how I know how to support my family. And in order to do that, I will need to charge more. You pay for therapy. Therapy is a type of witchery. Why?
Mm-hmm.
It's formally acknowledge. But if you come and get Reiki work done and something in you're healed or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
isn't that valuable?
Right.
Right. And then also, for example, how much money, even us who maybe do like, we're kind of mixing, we do multiple things. We like a lot of 3D stuff and we're spiritual, like myself, I call myself like spiritually bougie. You're going to spend all this money going out, to the club,
Right.
like
Right.
all of our spiritual sisters in Bali, they're out there partying all the time, You're okay to spend money on poison to put in your body. And I'm not judging
Yeah.
it. I'm just saying it is poison, but you're not going to spend money on medicine.
Right. Right.
You're going to spend money on a bag, which is great. Again, I love a bag.
Mhm.
or, bottle service or Amazon or whatever shopping spree or your facials or your hair, but you're not going to spend money on changing your life.
Mhm.
Look at it like that. To me, it's like, oh, it just needs a reframe. I had a man come to me yesterday, and thank God it was such a validation. I was so honored. I got to go into his records. It was through referral. He sat with their grandmother 10 times. And the way we were able to break down his next steps in the Akashic, he's like, oh my God, not only do you have amazing gifts, but like I hadn't figured that out after sitting 10 times. How
Mm.
simple it is for me to just take these insights and these next steps from my higher self and my Akashic counsel and then go do these things today.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? Like I charged him X amount of money for that. That was worth $10,000 what he got
Yeah.
yesterday. Let's keep it real. Like it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. I think that like what surprises me about I love that you mentioned like you wouldn't think twice about paying for a yoga class, for example, or something like that. And it's weird to me that people make a distinction between some types of spiritual work and other types of spiritual work. But also, what is strange to me is that oftentimes it's the spiritual work that actually gets the job done. So I have worked with so many people who have gone to doctors, like traditional Western doctors, and had all the tests and all the things and, whatever, trying to figure out what's wrong with them, why they're having chronic headaches or whatever the case may be. And then they end up going to an acupuncturist or they go to a Reiki healer or they go to a somatic healer and their headaches are gone. And I don't understand, like, why would we be okay with paying the doctor who couldn't figure out what the problem was and couldn't fix it? But then the spiritual healer who did fix the problem, we are okay with that person having to work 60 hours at the DMV just in order to afford to be able to heal us. You know, oftentimes the spiritual healer is the one that actually fixes the problem. It's not always the case. And oftentimes there's a combination approach that is needed. Maybe you need medication and also massage. Maybe you need therapy and also yoga. But the idea that one should be compensated with money and the other should be like something that you martyr yourself for to be able to bring to the world is very confusing to me. And in some ways, it makes me feel like people who say that are revealing that they actually don't truly believe that spiritual healing is legitimate.
Or it's also a mirror. They don't believe that they possess the
Yes.
necessary medicine within themselves or mindset within themselves even
Yeah.
to shift their reality. I mean,
Call it out.
you
Because
need
I think that too. When spiritual practitioners are like, I don't charge for my work. I'm like, do you not charge for your work because you don't feel confident that you're going to bring people results and you're afraid to charge for your work?
but
Because
also
it could be that.
again, like, and this might sound harsh, but I don't work with those people.
No, no, facts.
I don't. Like, I'm just like, I'm not going to be for you because I'm 5 figures. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to work with me one-on-one, it's 5 figures. And I have zero shame about that. I
Absolutely.
watched these men that I dated command millions of dollars and they're not changing the world and they're not healing people.
Right.
There's no way after experiencing what I have over the last 4 years that I'm not charging for what I do.
Yeah. Right.
And by the way, one of these people that I dated told me, he's like, you need to be charging. What you do is impactful. I wouldn't have otherwise believed it. I dated you, I'm being honest. But now that I've seen what you can do, he was like, a regular person who's not even right. So if that's the feedback,
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking that to heart. That's real
Mm-hmm.
feedback, right? And again,
Right.
I've gotten that from a plethora of people. But at some point, you don't need external validation. You are the first person that needs to validate what you do. And if people don't like it or they start to put you down, then guess what? They get blocked or we move on. I don't
Yeah.
entertain that anymore.
Yeah.
Don't, because I'm like, you know what? You're just not ready. And I get that. And if you want to continue to be attached to your story of suffering, at some point, I also, so that I'm not going to become the martyr, I've got to let you go. That's where
Yeah.
I'm at right now in my specific journey, both personally and in my business.
Mm-hmm.
I can't save everybody. But here's what I'm
Very
not
true.
going to do, remain broke, especially being a mother of a Black boy. No, I'm I'm sorry. I get to create generational wealth for myself. And if one of the ways I get to do that is through my healing work, whoever's meant to pay will pay me. And they do.
Yes. Yeah,
And they do.
absolutely. And they do. And I think that there's a separation that people need to make between the energy that you access and the work that you're doing. So, for example, when it comes to accessing the Akashic records on someone's behalf and helping them to uncover information there, the Akashic records are not, they don't, there's no charge to access them, right? Like they're available to all of us. However, what is to be compensated is the work and experience that you have put in to be able to access those records on someone's behalf, be able to translate those messages and provide them with the information that they're now going to use to go and potentially completely change their lives. I have go ahead.
I want to say something really quick too. And for
Yeah.
those who are practical and maybe have a left and right brain, I can show you, I can break down the financials, right? There's a real P&L of what I invested in to get to the place where I could even be able to access the Akashic.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning I've spent tens of thousands of dollars investments in various programs, healers, coaches that I can show you right now.
Yes.
That validates me as a practitioner with real financial investment and time. Not to mention me going through all of my own darkness and shadows and still earn that right to be able to access them. That's what you're paying for.
Yeah.
Is my version of what school looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And actual school, right? Traditional school, because that also is a part of my story and everyone's story, right? So it's not so woo-woo if you put it like that. If you write down all the things that you've personally invested in, Allie, to be able to do what you do, I bet you it's a real ass investment, right?
6 figures.
Yeah.
Easily. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we include college, it's 6 figures, 100%.
Oh,
right?
I'm before we even hit that, because I have a physical business. So it's been, high 5 figures just having a location for 3.5 years that serves this community. So the investment in that alone. But then you have years of Reiki certifications and 25 years of tarot reading and, traveling, taking classes, et cetera. It's a huge investment. And that doesn't include the 6 figures that are college and law school. So yeah, it's a ton.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, I think what I'm really good at doing is making things really tangible and practical. That's what I'm like the translator. I'm sort of like, after, again, being around a lot of wealth, living in LA for 18 years, is I'm really good at helping translate what seems very woo-woo into practical terms.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably like my greatest gift, right? So people are like, oh, the way you said it, like that makes sense. I just need to do blank. I'm like, yeah, you just need to go have a conversation with your dad. That's what happened yesterday with this client. You just need to go have a conversation with your dad. Now we cleared this stuff out energetically. Now you just need to go have the conversation. And for just the conversation, to spin the stories you have about him not loving you or being proud of you, because that's also a lie.
Yes.
Right? So it's like, do you have the courage to step out and be the healer and just give your magic, no matter who it might offend? Can you just, with the greatest intention for the highest good of yourself and everyone connected to you, step outside and just give your gift? And if you do that, can you not trust that the universe or whoever you believe in will not have your back? And anyone who doesn't, or anyone who has anything negative to say, it's not your business. Your job and responsibility with these gifts and with your skills, and I'd argue for anybody, not just spiritual healers, is to just go out and give it.
Right. Right. That's why you came here with them,
Right.
was to use them. They're the tools in your toolbox. And I know we just have a few more moments together. I want to be respectful of your time. I know you're heading out. But before we wrap things up, I saw one of your posts where you mentioned that being triggered by wealthy people is actually an indication that you are meant to be one. And I found that to be so profound and powerful, because that's exactly how triggers work. Right? We are not triggered by things that we don't care about, that we don't feel we have a connection to. If someone says like, oh my gosh, you're so fat, and you're like super, super thin, you're like, what? Right? Yeah, perhaps you're like, anyway, but perhaps if you've got a couple extra pounds and there's a part of you that might see yourself that way, if someone says that, it could totally bring you down, because you feel a truth about that. And so that was a profound thing that you said to me, because I was like, oh, wait a minute. The same thing is happening here. When you see someone who is wealthy and you are triggered by that, it's because there's a truth in you that is being revealed by seeing that person live their truth. And I was just hoping you could speak to that before we wrap up today. For those better witches out there listening who are spiritual practitioners, they're seeing people be wealthy. They are not necessarily in that same situation. And there's something really triggering about that. What do I do when I realize that, like, I want to be that? I am supposed to be that. And it's kind of bucking up against the fact that I'm not right now. How do I take that triggered energy of maybe feeling jealous or frustrated or wanting to like push it away, and instead lean into that and say, okay, this means something. How do I use this?
Well, number one, I would say start hanging out with people who are successful.
Mm,
You know, everybody wants connection. It doesn't matter how much money you make, right? Everyone wants connection. And especially as being healers, we tend to be kind of the light in those groups, right? Like they're like, oh, wow, something's different about you. So befriend people with money. Like it's not some weird thing, right? It's just money. It's just an energy. And you already are that energy. That's why we have these gifts. The energy already is giving millions, billions of dollars. It's just how you choose to look at it. Number one. Number two, I think it's just like believing that you can do it. And just like every single day, like I said, like instead of being mad about it, I'm like, oh, what are the lessons I've learned from my friends who are already millionaires? And what is the through line? It's work ethic, it's consistency, it's commitment. Okay, can I start doing that today?
right.
I've also interviewed my friends who have money, millionaires or not, but just even if they've like raised money for a business, for example. And I'm like, and I asked and I've interviewed them about money. I've done that. I've just gotten curious. Like,
Mhm.
there's no shame here. Like, it's okay if you weren't born into money, like, okay, we can't do anything about that, right? If we weren't born into money, we don't have a trust, right? Which
Right.
means what? We need to create it on our own. So how do we create it? We go talk to people who already did it.
Mhm.
We just demystify it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we
But
take what we have and then we work on it every day. We say, okay, well, what did I learn from that? Okay, so I know that consistency, commitment. I ask for help. That's one of my big things right now, asking for help,
mhm,
being able to receive it.
mhm,
How did they get there? How does he command millions of dollars? Well, he went and raised money, that he went to billionaires and then raised money so that he could become a millionaire. You see what I'm
mhm,
saying? So demystify it, ask questions, get curious. And also
right.
take these people off pedestals. Some of them were born into it. There's no need to think that they're better than you because they're not. They just have were handed a different set of cards than you were.
Mhm.
And then start looking at your gifts like millions of dollars.
Oh,
Oh, I just started smiling. I was like, oh,
yes.
if I possess are valued as millions or billions of dollars potentially, and I
Right.
continue to stay focused, like you said in the beginning of the podcast, guess what's eventually going to happen?
Yeah. Your talents are already dollars. Like your skills are already dollars. You just have to
Outside
transfer them.
Yes, it's not outside of you.
Mm,
Your spiritual bank is already loaded. Like, right? That's the misconception and the lie is that somehow you have to suffer and be broke. No, your medicine is already that. We're just learning how
right.
to translate it into the physical reality. And
Right.
that could look many different ways. Also, another thing I want to say is detach how it comes. That could mean that you partner with someone that already has it and they support you in bringing your vision to life. That could look like you start a business with someone who has access to capital. That could look like so many different things. So another thing I've learned too is just detach on how it shows up
Mm,
and let
right.
the universe do their thing. I don't know, however,
Yeah.
it's her thing.
Right. You
let,
hold the vision,
let the
but
creator.
don't focus so much on the how. You detach yourself from the how and instead hold the vision. And it's easier to hold the vision, I'm hearing you say, when it comes to wealth by putting yourself around others who are wealthy. because then the vision that you're creating for yourself isn't so foreign. It isn't so strange. It isn't so complicated. It isn't so mystified, as you say, and mysterious. When you surround yourself by with people who have whatever you have, whatever that is, whether it's money or it's businesses or it's property, it's a big family, whatever wealth and abundance is for you. If you surround yourself with people or introduce yourself to people who have that, that helps to allow your vision to be more clear, because it doesn't seem like something so far away and impossible.
It also creates safety, right? If I get used to being around money, it's not going to feel so scary anymore. I'm creating safety in my nervous system by co-regulating with someone that already has it. And also believing and knowing when I'm in that interaction that I'm actually just as valuable. Because that's one thing I can tell you right now. If I walk into a room with millionaires, I am very fucking confident. Yeah. If you've ever met me, right? And I know that my confidence comes from my soul. My soul is rich as fuck.
Yes.
Like, right? So people are like, oh, I want that, right? So I know that I'm also providing value.
I love that. My soul is rich as fuck. That's another t-shirt. You're dropping t-shirt like gems all through this episode. Medium Lauren says surrounding yourself is like as above, so below in live action. And I totally agree with that. And I feel like that's like, I want to keep talking to you about this. I know that we have to wrap up so that you can head into your next client session. So I want to thank you so much for being here with me. And I think that's a really powerful message for us to leave it on, that if you create safety and get rid of the mystical nature of what it is to be abundant, whatever that means for you, then you're able to better visualize that, hold it for yourself, and then detach from how you get there, allow the universe to do its work. So I just really love how you bring in the practical, the pragmatic, along with the spiritual. It's such a beautiful way to put these things together, and so helpful for spiritual practitioners. So before you head out, can you please remind folks of how they can get in touch with you, how they can come to work with you, and what they can learn from you on your platforms?
Yeah. So if anything I said resonated today, I would actually just suggest booking a clarity call with me. And that's all through my Stand store. So that's my marketplace. It serves as my front facing website. And then if you just want to learn more about my ideologies and what I believe, you can find that on my Instagram and my threads, which I'm sure you'll link in the show notes. So I'm just excited and grateful to have had this conversation with you today. And I look forward to us connecting and collaborating in the future.
Absolutely. It has been so great to have you. So many gems were shared today. Thank you so much for your time. And we'll definitely see you hopefully in a future episode. Bye. All right. Bye. Thank you so much. Thank you, witches, for tuning in to another episode of the Better Witch podcast. I've been your host, Ali Kravitz. For spiritual business tips, follow me on Instagram and threads at Bronx Witch. And you can find links to my classes, coaching programs, and more in the description of this episode. Remember, witches, when we know better, we witch better. See you in the next one. Blessed be.